capture a lot of this. Okay, sorry.
That's it.
Okay, so Emily, did you share a picture with us that I can?
Yeah, that's a photo. I hope you guys can open it.
Oh, where
We
is it?
actually, I just sent it in the chat.
Chat.
Good. I just found the photo on the library's social media. But it's a great space, and the plan is to like eventually connect across the alley. We actually did apply for the AARP's like community building grant for that space, and we're not awarded it, but we're gonna keep looking for other grants to make that town square.
And where the bicycles are currently, it's parking. And I don't think we should use any parking there even now before it gets fully utilized as a space for people, because we're just too comfortable with parking there. Let's remove that parking, in my opinion. I don't know. That's my opinion. And I keep asking for it, but it doesn't happen.
Well, that's beautiful. Nice job.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's colorful. It's got shade, those shade cloths and umbrellas, and the parklet is right there behind the flowers, the purple flowers kind of in the left. That's the parklet that we utilized on Main Street. You can't really see into the parklet, but it's there, and there's people sitting there, and there's tables and chairs there where the two pink umbrellas are. So it has increased, there was parking there too, and we've taken some parking away and put the parklet there. Thanks for the photo, Emily.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. That was really helpful. It's always helpful to see it, right? So now I want to invite our ladies from Orofino, Diane and Brenda. So when we were up at Orofino last summer, so the summer of 21, there was a small placemaking project going on that I think Ryan had put out with some tables and umbrellas, and we all sat and had coffee there and all of that. Do you two want to talk about that, or was there another project that happened up in Orofino that you'd like to talk about?
No, so yes, Ryan tried that project. He had he had purchased those tables for another project, but decided to try that placemaking to see how it would be received if we closed off one side street off of Johnson, which is our main street where all of our businesses are. And so he placed those tables with umbrellas, and he got probably just as much negative feedback as he did positive. And I think it had to do with what street was chosen to do that on. I don't think people are necessarily against it, but maybe not that particular street. Since then, he has purchased some tables that have like half umbrellas and put them up against the buildings on our wider sidewalks, and those have been utilized and well received. And I think our downtown merchants are open to that idea of placemaking there on Johnson Street. There was a new gourmet hamburger restaurant that just came in the last year, and they actually took part of their building and did an inset outdoor patio, and they have little heaters, and so it's encouraging sitting outside to eat, even in the wintertime when they have those heaters. So and then we have several other businesses that are placing some of their merchandise out on the sidewalk during the summer and sitting out there. We have a leather product maker, and he sits out there and he works on projects and just talks to people. And so, I think they're open to that. It's just a work in progress to find the right fit that everybody can get on board with. And Brenda has, and the other thing I would mention is the parks. Yep, that's it. That's what they did before. And everybody complained about the blocks and all that. And Ryan tried to make it clear that this was just a demonstration project and not a final project. But that is what it looked like. But with that Blue Cross Community Transformation Grant, we've been able to do some really cool things with little parks located throughout our community, out on Riverside, and Brenda can talk about the skate park and stuff. But I think those are those have been very well received and very appreciated, making some nice little places for families and kids to go. That's not just the one park that we have where the fair is right downtown. So
Yeah, and so the skate park's up and running, but right next to it, we're still in the transition of getting it all finished for a bike park. And that will be when it's finished, and today we just got a shed put up for storage for a loan program for our bikes and scooters and skateboards for that. So that can become a nice place to convene and whatever. And talk to Ryan to see if we can get some tables to make it a place to just a more inviting place, which we've got tables that we can do that. So hopefully that we can develop that into it. But there's also on one of the readings they had showed, I can't think of what pop-ups, I think is what it was. And one of the buildings, there was like the open umbrellas between two buildings. Remember that?
Mhm.
Well, we have an alley kind of like that. It's actually got a sidewalk. It's got landscaping on the sides of the sidewalk between the two buildings, and the buildings between each other is 25 feet for 100 feet long. And I was talking to Ryan today and I go, I'm not so much the umbrellas, but the shade cloths. If we could work and see if that would, because that would be a really nice, inviting downtown place for people to congregate. And
murals.
yeah, it's got a mural painted on the wall already. And so I think it was kind of intended, but when I looked at that pop-up with the umbrellas, that gave you that dimension of comfort and not open-ended, but more giving you some sense of security of being, under something temporarily. But yeah, anyway, he liked the idea. It's just a matter of making connection with the guy who owns the place to see if that's something he's interested in. I don't think it would really be a big, huge project to do, because most of the landscaping is already done. But that would be a nice place to do something there.
So I hope you take pictures and document what you are intending on doing so that we can see it and you can share it with all of us.
Well, it's like today was the initial planting the seed stage with Ryan. Yeah, it hasn't gone any farther than that. So are you talking about the shed? Or are you talking about
For all the equipment that you're buying, the skateboards and all of that stuff?
Oh, we have that. Yeah. Okay. That's
you do
already
have
done.
it. Okay.
We already have that. Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's already
Okay.
done. And then we do have a little, actually today, we're really busy the last 2 days. All these projects have been placed on hold. The Blue Cross Foundation has been helping us with some outdoor recreational, healthy living events. So yesterday and today, we had a kiddie park or a toddler track being put in down at the city park, and it was dug out and framed. And today it's going to be blacktopped, so put asphalt in it. So I'm kind of excited to have that. And that already, the park itself already is a place for families to come, and they utilize it a lot, but this will just enhance it. So I think that will be a really good place for families to come. And I realize it's a park in itself. It's not really a park outside of already a park, but that's a good spot that our community utilizes.
That's great. So I have a question for you in Orofino. Kaz talked about how they originally tried to use parklets on Main Street. And for them, it didn't work because Main Street is the highway. It's 5 lanes. It's a lot of traffic. I was wondering, after you talked about what happened on Johnson Street and some of the pushback, if you ever thought about potentially just lining one side of it, at least for a block or two, or half a block even, with parklets. As I measured it while we were up there, it's 42 feet of pavement, which means you could put a parklet that was 8 feet and still have 34 feet of pavement, which would be enough to both drive both ways and park both ways. and it would gather a little bit more space along the sidewalk on whichever side you did it. Anyway, just an idea I thought of. I was looking back through my notes from when we were visiting and noticed how wide Johnson Street is in terms of pavement, and wondered if you thought about doing anything like that.
We haven't. I know that Ryan's really was interested in the demonstration from last year or the year before, whenever that was. That we kind of talked about how to adapt that idea, because it's a good idea, just maybe not. It needed some,
Cutting off of the street.
yeah, not off the street, didn't like the street closed, but the parklet thing might be a good idea to do. And it just needed some aesthetics, to more pleasingly, because it can get hot in there. I do know the downtown merchants covet their parking places. And I do know the downtown businesses are going, I don't want to give up my parking place. They're kind of like, they take, I think each one of them has like 2 parking places, and they kind of like, I don't want you to take my away from my customers. So there has been an arguments about it before in a different time that I've been.
While I'm using the term parklet, I'm actually suggesting that the street is wide enough that you could do that and still have parking. You wouldn't have to lose any parking. It's just that you'd have a narrower street segment to travel on.
I think that might be a good solution and worth, maybe doing some surveying of our merchants and see, because that on-street ability to have people, be there and congregate would be beneficial to some of them. So I think it's worth pursuing. We hadn't thought of that prior to this last round of curriculum. So
I definitely think it's worth looking into.
I see Deanna has her hand up. Deanna, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in because we all noticed that last summer when we were up there and really loved it. But, these are really good examples of how to do pop-ups. What the value of pop-ups can bring you is it's temporary, so people know it's going away, and they get to experience it. And you might want to think about maybe the team has identified 2 or 3 or 4 places around downtown where they think something permanent like this might be nice, and experiment with pop-ups. And then what you frame around the pop-up is you do some good data and evaluation and engagement. So you ask the merchants to track, did they have more traffic or less traffic? You ask, the users what they liked about the space, what brought them to it, would they like more of it? You can, put out a community-wide survey and ask people over, not the first week because it's change and people react to change, but maybe another week or 2 or even a month later of did they use it, did they like it? So just forward thinking, anytime you surprise people with something that changes what they're used to, you're going to get a lot of negative reaction. And a great way to get around that and help them find and you find what they want. Maybe they don't want that. Maybe they do want that. Everybody's afraid to lose their parking, but as Haley heard from me the day before yesterday, I always like to remind businesses that people shop, cars don't. And one person getting out of a car in front of your business isn't nearly as great as 10 people walking down the sidewalk.
that's a good point.
Okay, so I guess at this point though, are both communities thinking about doing for your final project some type of traffic calming demonstration or placemaking? Have you decided to do that yet?
I thought we're kind of doing that circle, aren't we?
I think that's kind of where we were headed.
Yeah.
Do what?
We need to rally our troop and make a final decision, but I think everybody was leaning towards that. The traffic circle at the highway.
Okay, so a traffic calming temporary demonstration type of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
And Haley has not made our final decision either. We've had 2 or 3 possibilities. And you know, what we did talk a lot about is creating this sense of a network throughout our city and education around this network. That's going to definitely, I hope, be part of whatever project we pick, because we had some great conversation this past, couple of days with Deanna leading us through this conversation. But we all kind of thought the networking idea and really showing people that there is a network through town to and from the downtown, from maybe the stores that people need to go to from the neighborhoods into the town, is something that we're really trying to create. Safe travel, safe passage. And one thing that really kind of turned my brain to a different way of thinking is, I was like, I want every street to be bikeable. And Deanna was like, you should have, for sure, certain lanes, certain roads that are really safe, and make those that your network. And then you'll see other people riding, and it won't be so spread out, and it will be more clearly understood that this is for bikes too, if it's a particular network, and the cars might get used to it a little easier. And it's just more beneficial to have, instead of everywhere creating this dispersed biking, but really focusing down on a safe network. I like that idea. And so, we talk about, one of our projects is possibly putting in temporary sidewalk, safe pathway, not sidewalk, safe pathway for walking and biking. That is a gap in our network, and it's pretty critical gap that we need to fill. What else, Joel and King? Chime in here. There were a couple of other ideas, and I just hope that the whole network idea and education and mapping and wayfinding is all going to be part of that. There you are.
I'm having a bad beard day, so not too much camera, but I'm kind of really liking the network idea as well, and falling in and education as far as where our routes are and what is the safer routes compared to the more hectic routes.
So I'm going to share with you all, I guess before I move on to this, does anybody else want to add anything before I start talking about collecting data?
So Cynthia, can I ask one more question of the Orofino folks?
Absolutely.
So I know that you got your sharrows painted on Brown Street, and I wondered what, if anything else, you are planning to do there. Is that where you're planning or thinking about doing the temporary circle, or are you thinking on the highway? I was trying to clarify that.
So we have talked about doing those small circles in there to see. Right now, we're not really showing a lot of, we have had so much positive. I haven't heard anything negative about that. In fact, there's so much positive about those sharrows that people want, the residents want them on other streets.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it is just phenomenal. And then they want us to go on the other side of the school. So it is like, hold on, we got to get more paint kind of thing, So and for the traffic, we are not getting a lot of dangerous traffic to where those circles probably we're not going to need. So it just positive all over the place on those things. So, which is good.
That's great.
Yeah, super great. And then, but we were talking about Diane and I were just talking about, we have Lumberjack Days coming up next weekend. And if we can pull it off, it'd be kind of interesting. Our Mexican restaurant gets crazy busy that time. And that would be a really fun place to put, if we could go talk to them, if they would be interested in a pop-up area for that weekend, for that temporary weekend, because they get crazy inundated and they run out of seating. And that might be something that maybe we could, and I don't think putting up 3 or 4 tables and blocking it off with some, I don't know, whatever, to make it look kind of nice would be a detriment to them. And see if they would be interested in something like that, especially since they were open to the setting a year ago.
That's a great idea. We could probably send you some pictures and stuff of how other places have done it, if that would help.
Yeah.
I would just add, Diana and Brenda, I think, anytime you can combine a pop-up or an experiment with another activity that the community already loves, and it's something that's going to add to that activity or that event, you're already setting the stage for it to be well received. So that's great. That's such a great idea. I hope you do that.
Okay, so
Try.
I love this so this is not the same conversation we were having with you guys a few months ago. I'm just going to say that, like, this is great to hear, and I'm excited that you all are feeling like you're making progress. So it's fantastic.
It's so cool because I had to go to Moscow this morning for another meeting, and I'm driving through and I'm thinking, this is a college town with all kinds of kids, and I'm looking at the roads and there's some really wide, fast traffic and all this. They do have some dedicated pedestrian only streets, but I was like, it just makes you start really looking and thinking and comparing. It's really been great.
Good. So thank you. Okay, so I'm going to show you some pictures of a little project that I did here in Boise with an AARP grant that we got. Can you guys see my screen? There's a picture of people and a dog out in the street. And what we did was we did some placemaking in front of an elementary school that's actually on my street. My street is a local street, but it's, for some reason, the highway district treats it as a collector. So it's a through street, unfortunately. And we just did some really simple stuff. Deanna helped me with this to set this up. And we just put in these curb extensions, and the highway district came out and actually kind of glued them to the road, which I would not recommend. They went overboard, but we did them in a couple different locations. Here they are on 8th Street. I live on 9th Street. This is 8th Street. And you can see this biker is safely going through this intersection with the big truck there. It was not a problem. And then we signed it, and we really made sure that we let people know what was coming. And we also talked to the bus system. We had the firemen come down to try it out. I went door to door to all the homes in the immediate kind of couple of blocks and gave them all flyers with my contact information. And then we collected data, which I would highly recommend. So we did an online survey, and we asked people to fill this out because we wanted to know what people thought of it. Now, like you guys, we got pushback. We had people who hated it, people who called and complained about it, the whole thing. But that was pretty small compared to what we were able to do. And it wasn't up very long. It was up about a week because that was the only time period that we planned on doing it. So it was a short one. I would recommend going 3 months if you can, or longer, because over time people get used to it and then they stop complaining. But most importantly, we got out there with radar guns, and we have some radar guns if your communities want to borrow some. And we wanted to look at speeds on the street. And what we found with the traffic calming is we had a 96% compliance of the speed limit versus a 77% compliance. So what that told us is that motorists slowed down when things like this were put out on the street. And I would recommend doing that. I would recommend inviting, if you're going to put something on the street, I would recommend inviting all the users to come down and try it out. If you've got a bus that travels through there and all of that, and I would videotape them turning the corner, fire trucks, because that's a big thing that we hear is emergency vehicles. So that's just a little project that we did that I wanted to share with all of you. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I have one comment, and maybe it's a question really. Do you think people know what traffic calming is? You had that sign, and I don't even think people really understand what that means and what that is.
I don't know.
So
Yeah.
my response to that, Kaz, is they don't know it technically, but people intuitively know what calm traffic is.
Uh-huh.
And it means different things to different people. And
Uh-huh.
that's actually an important factor. You know, what we want, I want calmer traffic so people don't whiz by me while I'm biking. Someone who's walking down the street wants calmer traffic so it feels more comfortable. But traffic calming itself, well, it doesn't mean a specific thing. And so I think it's okay that they don't know what you mean, but they do know what calm traffic is intuitively. They experience it. And they also experience uncalm traffic. I don't know if that helped, but
Yeah.
That was not, and words do matter. And that was not something we ever heard about. Like, we never had anybody say, I don't know what you're doing, because we put those signs up, we gave them advance notice, and then we went ahead and we did it. And with the highway district, they had like 30 people down here. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was this
Wow.
big
That's
event.
cool.
With this, well, it was a
No?
little overboard. It was a little over the top, but that's okay. Deanna and Lisa Brady and I were out there, doing our part and taking pictures and talking to people. That's another thing that we did. We made up little flyers, and then at school drop off and pickup, we were out there with flyers and handed them to moms and said, make sure you go take the survey. If you like this, which the moms loved it, it was on
Sure.
these busy streets with a lot of traffic. And people were like, sure, happy to. And so, just being
they
out
brought
there, I
the-
think is really important, like talking to people, explaining the project. I think that's a really critical part of your demonstrations.
Yeah. So they probably brought so many people because they thought it was such a big deal to add these bulb outs. Like, oh my God, we can't do that. But
Yeah, I think it was, they felt like they were doing a good thing. Everything they do is really big, like they do big, they don't just do little things. Everything is overbuilt, over designed,
yeah,
over engineered.
yeah, like gluing it to the road.
Right. And we use that straw wattling. Do you guys know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's super fragile, and it got glued to the road. So we had to throw it all away. Not that it cost a ton of money, but it was just kind of shameful that we had to do that.
Yeah.
But it works great if you're trying to bend it around to do shapes. I would recommend straw
Sure.
wattling. So, did anybody read the article from Strong Towns about the zebras, the traffic calming zebras?
Yeah.
And, they use words like uncertainty and intrigue, complexity. I really liked that article. Did this bring to mind anything for anybody? Like, most of our roads don't require a lot of thinking. We don't have to really be engaged. We can just sit there and drive our car because we have wide lanes. So I don't know, did that get anybody thinking about anything?
Well, it made me think that whenever there's a lot of billboards, it's very confusing to me. There's like so much going on that you have to let your eyes take in, and I slow down when there's a lot of billboards, even if it's not people dressed as zebras in the street. But yeah, certainly, like when I used to run the farmers market, and we had a site right on Main Street, and there were tents up, a lot of people would say something about, oh God, I passed it because I forgot about the market, and then I turned around because I saw these tents. And so it does, whatever's going on that's different, it makes people look, and it makes people slow down and say, I wonder what's going on over there. It's good to have an event that's people can kind of see. And yeah. I mean, I was sad that one of the zebras got hit. Jeez.
I know that was kind of sad, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Several years ago, there was a woman, Deanna and Elaine know her very well. She doesn't live in my neighborhood anymore, but she lived up in, for those of you who know Boise, Brumback and 8th, and a lot of this traffic will come down. So this area got developed up above in the foothills. And so people speed down and zip right down and zoom downtown. And she wanted a traffic island there. So she got a throne and she would sit out there on her throne so that
Whoa.
cars would slow down.
Whoa.
Mhm. True story, right, Elaine?
Sorry, I'm on mute. Yeah, that's a true story.
Maybe we need to get a throne. What do you think, King, Joel? Get a throne and
So have any of you heard?
put you on the throne, King.
Yeah. Many years ago, we started talking about traffic calming because of an Australian guy named David Engledge. And one of his props was a throne.
Wow. Huh. Well, it also reminds me of, like, you know, some of those fast food joints that have like an eggplant, you know, or a cucumber or a, I don't know, maybe it's not any of those because there's no stores that do that, but you know, whatever they're dressed as, trying to get people to stop with their signs, and they have some costume on.
The windsock Gumby thing that's like, woo.
Yeah.
Waving at you. Yeah, I don't know that I would go so far as the zebras or the mimes. Mimes already have a bad rap, so but no, seriously, in our community, I don't know if that kind of activity would be well received. But I certainly can agree with creating, something that's different that makes people slow down. And
Well, you'll have an opportunity if you guys want to participate in National Parking Day, which is next Friday, the 16th.
ooh, which is fair weekend.
Yes, fair weekend.
Mhm.
There you
So
go.
if you do some research online, or I included the video that Idaho Smart Growth
Yeah.
created a couple of years ago. We got a bunch of businesses and nonprofits to participate. I think it's about a 1.5-minute long video.
I watched it.
And you could go on the website. So in Boise, we have to jump through a lot of hoops because we have a highway district. So we have to get permits and insurance, and it's traffic calming. We have to submit a traffic plan and all of those kinds of things. But in your towns, you probably don't have to do that if you put it on a local street. And it does give you an opportunity to engage people and to be out there and to talk about street as public land, and it belongs to all of us. And you know, the irony of living here in Boise and wanting to do something, you can park a car on a street, no problem. But if you as a person want to go sit in a parking space, you can't.
Yeah, it's so true. So true. It's like,
Mhm.
what? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that would be kind of fun to do something here for that day.
So if you guys do something, which I hope you do, you know, make sure that you get some pictures or some videos or something and share those with us. And, you know, we can use those and we can talk about those and talk about things going on in other communities. That would be great. So what we do is we go to one of the nurseries and we get a bunch of trees and shrubs and flowers, and we have green turf that we put down, and we create a real park feeling. And then we have chairs and we invite people to come in and sit, and we'll have games. And I think we're going to have some live music this year. So
The trees and shrubs are just in their pots, so you don't buy them. In fact, you can advertise for the nursery.
yeah.
Well, maybe what we could do is get rid of the cars in that potential parking or town square that we want to create for the day, and show people, you know, put some of the furniture that's on the sidewalk in those spaces, and show them, you know, and maybe get a few shrubs or trees and line, like Deanna, you were saying, you know, might be really good to line the edges of what is the alley that would have to remain at least potentially open for emergency vehicles, even if we take up the rest of the space and don't allow cars. But we could maybe do something like that.
Yeah, I had recommended you do a pop-up, and I probably should have clarified what I meant by that language. And whether you do it for parking day, Kaz, or later, or do it for parking day, and then again, what I was recommending is the way I think for you to help move that space forward and allow people to feel okay with letting go of the parking, because you're saying that's one of the tension points, is to periodically have pop-ups there. And I would go beyond just filling the space with a place to hang out, but I would actually create events and like invite a food truck or two or three to come down, or local vendors to come and offer things that are in the area that are walkable from that space. Put games out for the kids
Yeah.
and families or anybody. Giant, I noticed you guys have a nice giant chessboard there that I thought was very creative, that somebody made using empty bottles that were left over. I don't know whose idea that was, but I loved it. So, you know, just fill it with activities. Successful places, people come to them because they know there's multiple activities to do that are multi-generational. So they know they don't have to think about it. They just know if they go, there'll be something for them to do. And that's the goal of a successful place, is that it just draws people because they know they'll see friends there and they can sit and visit, or they can get something nice to eat, or they can play a game, or they can, you know, that you want, like, you know, a lot of different activities, and it's close to other activities, which is why you want to tie in, you know, the library. They can also go to the library, or they can go to their nearest favorite coffee shop, or go to the restaurant around the corner and bring their food over and sit there and eat their, you know, whatever they got. So
Yeah.
just, I think that would be a great opportunity for you guys. I don't know if you can pull that off in a week, but certainly I would encourage you to get started on that going forward.
So we just have a couple minutes left. Deanna, did you want to talk to the group about anything today, or do you want to hold off on that?
I have one thing that I want to talk to you all about. Before today, Cynthia was asking last week or the week before, I don't remember which, asking me for stuff to send you all in preparation for this month. And I was kind of mentally at a loss. And then I remembered, so I spent 6 months working on a project that was funded by Ford Foundation, that one of their think tanks and a very well-known forward-thinking development company, an international development company based out of one of their places is out of San Francisco, called Gill Studios. And they did this project called the National Street Service. And some of you may have seen my hat. I don't know if you've seen it, but my hat that I usually wear has a little thing on it that says the National Street Service. And it was a very interesting project, and I learned an enormous amount. And one of the things we did, so what I want to tell you all today, the whole project was about rethinking our streets and rethinking the culture around our streets, and how do we get to a culture that's stronger around the idea of streets are for people. And those people might be in their car driving, they might be on their feet walking, they might be on their bike, they might be sitting in front of a cafe. So it's not about non-drivers and drivers. It's about our streets as places for people, regardless of how they're using them. And so one of we had like about 23 volunteers who worked with us. 2 of us were hired to run it here in Boise. There was a parallel experiment going on in Philadelphia. And the volunteers had to do a variety of things. And one of the things they had to do was this exercise about exploring streets to help you discover and challenge your own often unacknowledged or even unknown biases that we all carry about streets. regardless of that. And it's because it's a cultural bias. So I have a little task that I'm going to send out to everybody after today. And the task is that I've got a list of things I want you to do for 2 streets. You're going to pick a street in your community that you like, and you're also going to pick a street in your community you don't like, and you're going to go walk on it. And so carve out, 20 or 30 minutes to do each of these. It doesn't need to take a lot of time, but I'm going to ask each of you to try and do this between now and your next meeting when I present. And I will send this to you, and there's a kind of a list of things to do while you're walking to help you explore the streets and think about them. And then after you explore, you're going to come back and there's another list of questions I want you to try and answer for each of those streets. And then we'll talk about it. So I'm just letting you know,
that.
I'm sending you a task to do sometime in the next 2 weeks if you can. Please, try and do it.
So would it make sense to do it as a group, like King, Joel, Isabel, Emily? Do it by yourself.
Definitely do this particular task by yourself.
Okay.
We did have group tasks that we did later on, but this is how we started every volunteer. And it was really eye-opening and educational for them and for us. You'll be surprised, I think. Even for a group like you who has done a lot of thinking about this, I think you'll still have some surprises.
Should we not take Main Street? Because that.
Pick any street you want. It doesn't
Okay.
matter. You pick the street that you like. And the way it's the language in the thing that is your favorite street and your least favorite street, but you may not have a favorite street. Just any street you like and any street you really don't like.
Okay.
Can I do
Right
it too?
Absolutely. You can
Okay.
go for it. It's very fun. I have
No,
done it.
you can't, Cynthia.
Well, I heard, so Sarah Taylor, who used to work for both of our organizations, she did it, and I heard her talk about her streets. And it was fascinating because she has 2 little kids, and she totally became re-engaged to her neighborhood through this project. And I found that to be really interesting. Okay, I think that's it. Unless anybody has anything else to add, I think this was a really good discussion. We all love this placemaking, traffic calming, temporary demonstration, lighter, quicker, cheaper, whatever you want to call it. We all love doing it and we all believe in it, if you can't tell. So it's one of our favorite topics.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank
It was
you. Okay,
fun
take care.
spending time with Haley.